And I know that המעלות. אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ, עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. I lift my eyes unto the hills. Where will my help come from? My help comes from the one, the maker of heaven and earth. My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth.
The words of Ralph Waldo Emerson: to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. The pain of this moment seems almost too much to bear. Loss, yes, but this loss. Mourning, sure, but now, grief is so hard to come by. There are few sources of comfort other than the presence of family and friends who have come together this morning and show how deeply they have been impacted by the quality of this unique and remarkable person. It's the tragic news of Bonnie's death that brings us together today, but it's the quality of her life that makes us want to be here. We know we honor her best by focusing less on the circumstance and more by sharing stories on what she meant to each of us. Many of us know the privilege it was to be her friend, her colleague, her family member. Wherever her path touched you, you knew you were in the presence of someone special. What do you do when you don't know what to do? You show up, you join together. It's one of the great mitzvahs of the Jewish people. So this morning we will join together with Ellen and with Jennifer, with Tracy and with Marcy to pay tribute to our beloved Bonnie. We'll share psalms and poetry. We'll sing and pay tribute. We'll cry and we'll laugh. We'll be together even as her death leaves a part of us empty. I invite you to join with me in the reading on the front of the program. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am a diamond glint on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. When you awake in the morning hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the soft star shine at night. Do not stand by my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
Psalm 23. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, בינות דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות, על מי מנוחות ינח עליני. נפשי שובב ישובב, ינחני ומגלי צדק, ינחני ומגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא אירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפניי, לפניי, שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
Join me in the translation of Psalm 23. With God as my shepherd, I shall not want. The Eternal makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, restores my soul, guides me in straight paths for the sake of God's name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever.
Words from Psalm 16. I have set the holy presence before me always. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini ba emot. לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי, אף בשרי ישכון לבטח. כי לא תעזוב נפשי משול, לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת. תודיעני אורח חיים, אורח chaim. Sova simachot et panecha, neimot bimincha netzach. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bal emot.
Kohelet, the author of the book of Ecclesiastes, put together this famous poem that encompasses each part of life, from birth to death, from rejoicing to weeping. Let's read it together on the bottom of the program. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to embrace, a time to stand alone, a time to seek, a time to lose, a time to hold on, and a time to let go, a time to rend, a time to mend, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. Certainly this morning and at other times, there will be a time for silence. But right now, it is our time to speak. And I'm sure for many of us, it is quite strange to be here today, to send Bonnie off to her final resting place. For most of us, this passing comes as a great shock. How could this be? Weren't we just here for Gary? I just saw Bonnie. I recently left her a message. We were going to get together when she was back from her trip. She was just at Shabbat services. She wasn't even sick. Certainly we come to this Beth El, this house of God, this morning to pay our tribute to the matriarch of a loving family and an honored member of this congregation, Bonnie Denmark Friedman, who passed away last week at the age of 80. Bonnie helped Congregation Beth El grow to the vibrant synagogue we see today. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that Bonnie was an institution. Beth El would not exist like it does without her, and now it will not be the same without her. The philosopher Martin Buber writes, "It is the duty of every person to know and consider that he or she is unique in the world in her particular character, and that there has never been someone like her before. For if there had been someone like her before, there would be no need for her to be in the world." In other words, according to Martin Buber, it is an obligation for each of us to see our own uniqueness, to live authentically and with integrity, to be our true selves. Without even knowing it, Bonnie embodied this duty. She lived life to the fullest. Our hearts are heavy with her passing. There has never been someone like Bonnie before, and there never will be like someone like Bonnie again. Truly one of a kind. And while our hearts are certainly heavy with loss, we know that Bonnie mattered to us. She mattered to her family and to the people who loved her. We take comfort in knowing that in Jewish tradition, we do not bury a person, we simply bury the body. Because Judaism does teach of an eternal soul, a spark that will not be extinguished. And Bonnie is that spark. The psalmist wondered what was the measure of someone who lived a life well. They ask, and these are the words that the cantor used to open the service, "Who shall dwell upon your holy mountain?" And the answer is, one who walks upright and does righteousness. She who speaks truth in her heart. She who has no slander upon her tongue. Who does no evil to another or causes harm to her neighbors. She who honors those who keep their oath like she does. These are the ones who stand upon God's holy mountain. And no doubt Bonnie is standing on that mountain now. But this morning we also add to the psalmist's words. Our help also comes from the embrace of loved ones and community. And so together we gather around Bonnie's family, offering them our strength and comfort as we say goodbye and honor her life today. Born in Steubenville, Ohio, to Samuel and Rennie, Denmark, Bonnie was the oldest of 4 sisters. She was raised primarily in Hammond, Indiana, and her father ran Rothschild's, the women's clothing department stores that had stores across Indiana and Illinois. As was custom for women of that generation, Rennie stayed home and raised the 4 girls. Bonnie was bright, excelling at Hammond High School before eventually heading off to college at Goucher College in Baltimore, Maryland, where she received a degree in psychology. As a freshman in college, she reconnected with another Hammond High School friend, Gary Friedman. They knew each other throughout high school, 2 of the Jewish kids at Hammond High. But home from college for winter break, he asked her to a dance. Jennifer said the family lore went something like this. Mom was cute, Dad was a nerd. They dated throughout college while she was in Baltimore and he in Ann Arbor, with an eventual wedding in July of 1967 in Chicago, before moving to Madison, where he went to law school at the University of Wisconsin. Soon after moving to Madison, 2 girls followed, first Jennifer and then Ellen. Gary was working long hours as a CPA, and while the kids were still young, Bonnie went back to school, eventually earning her social work degree from UW. Bonnie was a terrific speller and a typer, a trait that seems to be hereditary to her daughter and even her grandchildren, I'm told. And what few people might not know, and that I found out while talking to Ellen and Jennifer, is that she also actually almost received her master's in English as well. It was later in life, after she had long retired, Jennifer even encouraged her to say, "Hey, Mom, how many credits short are you in that master's in English?" But with the 2 girls in tow, they built a home on Nottingham Way, a home, I guess, that as many of you remember fondly. Gary worked long hours, and Bonnie eventually in her professional role as a social worker, first at Madison General, and then at Methodist, and eventually at Meriter Hospital. As a social worker, she was ahead of her time, even being published in a journal for her article about coping with cancer. In an age where the instinct was to treat only the disease, she saw the people. She was well respected at work, often working in some of the most challenging situations, directly helping bereaved parents, working with people and with families of someone who had had a serious accident. She was a true professional, bridging the gap between medical care and daily life. For her, recovery was always as much emotional as it was physical. When 4 Madison High School students were tragically killed in a car accident, she stepped forward to coordinate grief counseling services for the community. She knew instinctively how to carry the weight of others, perhaps because she was no stranger to carrying that of her own. As we all know, life is filled with both blessings and burdens. The early loss of her sister, Leslie, was a grief she carried always, and at times my hunches continued to test her resolve. She navigated significant challenges in the relationship with Gary, staying steadfast through his heart attack and eventually her own breast cancer diagnosis. Her skills were wide-ranging. Early in her marriage, she used her love of writing in the French language to work as a substitute teacher. Her creative side extended to the fiber arts, particularly needlepoint and cross-stitch. She had a love of Victorian houses. Travel was another part of her life. She and Gary enjoyed ocean and river cruises. In recent years, they wisely spent their winters in warmer climates. California and Florida. These trips often centered on her family, as she traveled frequently to visit Ellen, Steve, and her 3 grandchildren. Most recently, she enjoyed a Caribbean cruise with Jennifer. And as you all know, Gary and Bonnie gave back. No place is this more evident than to the Jewish community, especially here in Madison. They supported the Jewish Federation, and they supported Camp Shalom and Jewish Social Services. She served as the Midwest Regional President of the Union of Reformed Judaism. She was actually co-president, I'm told, but the other president just took Chicago, and Bonnie took the rest of the Midwest. She visited synagogues big and synagogues small across the region, offering, no doubt, in her own way, support and advice and a supportive presence. Later in life, she served as a member of the Board of Governors of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, a place whose mission is training the future of Jewish leaders, ensuring a deep legacy of Jewish responsibility. And while I talk about all those important Jewish institutions, of course, at Bethel, Jennifer and Ellen joked that she might have done every single thing here. This is true, of course, from sisterhood president to Foodorama chair to board service to temple president. More than anyone else, she wanted this community to flourish for generations to come. She helped found our Adar Society, our commitment to legacy giving. And as I was looking through the Bethel web pages, there's a quote of hers for the Adar Society where she said, "We have found a home at Temple Bethel and are so grateful for this community for supporting us. We want future generations to reap the benefits of the seeds we have planted." In our most recent campaign here at TBE to raise funds for our endowment for spiritual leadership, her tenacity almost single-handedly helped make it a success. She saw the vision of what sacred giving could do for a community, for Jewish life now and for the future. She was the first to say that, how much she loved our cantor. She was a proud member alongside Jennifer of the Temple Bethel Choir. And Jennifer, I know your mom had a nice voice and liked singing, but more than anything else, I think being in a choir was a chance to be next to you. Certainly these high holidays, when we look over there, when we look to the choir, we know that there'll be a void here on the bima. More than any role or any position, though, Bonnie was just Bonnie, making deep friends here at Bethel, lifelong friends, friends of all ages and from all backgrounds, offering her warm smile and outgoing personality. Even after Gary died, a really, really difficult time for her and for our country, as it was right at the start of the pandemic, Bonnie still found a way to connect with others, being part of a Zoom Shabbat group whose gatherings became sacrosanct and a lifeline during those early stages of lockdown. I know many of you here were touched by her friendship and by her care. Ellen said that even despite the geographic distances, she was a stellar bubby. She had an apron that proclaimed, "Life is uncertain, eat dessert first." She found immense joy in her grandchildren, Akiva and Asher and Tamima. In Judaism, one of the greatest honors is to be part of a Shashelet HaKabbalah, the unbroken chain of tradition, hands linked, generations united. Bonnie was the most cherished link in that chain, connecting generations with love and with wisdom. If you knew her, you knew she was no shrinking violet. She knew what she wanted, and she would tell you that, even directly at times, often to her rabbi. I'm told that she was clear and persistent, even to the very end. She knew what she wanted, and this was true all of her life. As one of Bethel's most treasured members, her passing leaves an irreplaceable void. In times of loss, the most important thing we can do is come together. As we say goodbye, we might ask where else we might find such a caring and charismatic and generous sister, mother, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, grandmother, aunt, and friend. The truth is there was no one like Bonnie. She was one of a kind, and her absence leaves an empty space in our hearts. So to you, to Jennifer and Ellen and Steve and Akiva and Asher and Tamima and Marcy and Tracy and John and Mark, and to so many others, you each carry a spark of her spirit, and it's a spark that even death cannot extinguish. Bonnie, the realistic optimist, wouldn't have wanted this gathering to be too somber, but mostly for her family and her friends to be together. And though we grieve, and we do grieve, we also smile in remembrance of a woman who loved life and lived it fully. Zichrona livracha. May Bonnie's memory always be a blessing to those who knew and loved her. A poem by Henry Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I am I and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the same easy way which you always did. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the shadow of a ghost on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind? Because I am out of sight. I am just waiting for you, for an interval somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. We invite forward Jennifer to offer a tribute at this time.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you on behalf of myself, Jennifer Friedman, my sister Ellen Friedman, and our whole family. Justin, I'm sure you didn't get left out on purpose. We didn't know he would be here. Mom would have loved to be able to say goodbye to each of you. As you can hear from my voice, and I hope everyone can hear me, I'm getting over some upper respiratory problems. So I decided that rather than telling the story of how Mom came to pass away on a beautiful island in the Caribbean over and over again, I would tell you about it here. So I have titled this, What Happened? In 2024, Mom brought up to me the idea of a Caribbean cruise that would take place in February 2026. And her friends, Diane and Mark Krasnick, had given her this idea of a particular cruise since they would be on the same one. I agreed, but I wasn't particularly enthusiastic. It seemed like it was a long time in the future and I'd think about it later. Over time, I looked into the ship and the itinerary and I started to get more excited about this cruise. Mom had gotten us a really beautiful suite that we could even see in a walkthrough on YouTube in advance, so we knew where we'd be staying. In January, my mom and I both had some personal problems crop up that affected us strongly, and I asked her if she was sure she wanted to go on this cruise. And she told me she had not gotten travel insurance, so we had to go. Pretty much, no problem. I thought we could both use the relaxation. We embarked at Fort Lauderdale on February 2nd, and we were to disembark and travel home on February 13th, 11 days later. Our suite on the Celebrity Ascent, a 3-year-old ship, if you're interested in cruising, I highly recommend it, was spacious and gorgeous and had a full balcony. We had some memorable meals. Mom enjoyed an evening show with Diane and Mark. We had 2 shore excursions in Cartagena, Colombia, and in Panama City. Although the weather was over 90 degrees for those, we really saw some wonderful things and had a chance to experience some history. But really, Mom just loved sitting on the balcony of our suite. She was sometimes reading or just gazing at the sea when I would come back to the room after an activity. 5 days into our cruise, Mom and I developed colds. Colds? I had forgotten to bring my COVID tests, but it really seemed like just small colds. So we took care to get extra sleep. We spent some extra time in the room together. And Mom stayed on the ship during our port day on Aruba a couple days later, relaxing and napping and getting room service. On Monday, a week into our cruise exactly, Mom woke up feeling not so good. She was short of breath and she felt achy. She wanted to go to the ship's medical center, so we did, where we received excellent care. She received excellent care and she was diagnosed with pneumonia. We were told we would need to disembark that day on Curacao since Mom would need hospital care. Mom was taken first to the emergency room at the Curacao Medical Center and then to the intensive care unit in the same hospital, where visiting hours were 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I and my sister, when she followed to Curacao a few days later, spent most of those visiting hours each day, either with Mom or in the ICU waiting room. The doctors and nurses at Curacao Medical Center were very friendly, informative, and professional. Mom had her favorites and her not so favorites. If somebody gave her news that she didn't like, she would say, "I don't like that one," which I know sounds a lot like her to you. It wasn't easy for the staff because this was the lead up to a very special time on Curacao, Carnival, which is celebrated with parades and bands and festivals, and it's amazing. Lots of costumes. It was really neat. The ICU lobby was decorated with festive garlands and costume pieces, and the band at a nearby high school rehearsed until midnight each night, keeping me up in my hotel room across the street from the hospital. Mom had her opinions. I know no one is surprised to hear that. She did not want to be intubated. She felt that this was the beginning of the end, and she did not want to lose control over the situation. The result of that decision, unfortunately, was that she could not be sedated as her body worked to heal, as that can depress respiration levels, and she needed to be able to breathe to heal. She was aware of everything and very uncomfortable, had trouble sleeping, as anyone who's tried to sleep in the hospital knows. She made it absolutely clear what she wanted and did not want. as the days went by and she was still on serious oxygen support. The doctors did not seem to have any news for us. They would not move her to a regular hospital room because the ICU was where they had the oxygen machines that she needed. She got a COVID diagnosis early on, which did not affect her treatment. As one doctor told me, pneumonia is pneumonia. Mom went from hoping that she would heal to hoping that she could get better enough to fly home, to realizing that even if she did get home, full healing was not guaranteed. We were sad to see her more and more agitated in the mornings when we would arrive for visitor hours. Several times she called us or texted us as we were walking from the hotel to the hospital across the street. We hated seeing her in pain and discomfort. She was not eating much, and she told us this was a nightmare for her. On Monday, February 16th, Mom told the doctor working on the ICU that day, Dr. Zaida, that she knew this was her last day. Dr. Zaida's main concerns were that Mom's wishes be followed and that she not be in any pain. Mom was in control of her destiny right up until she passed away that afternoon. Ellen and I were there the rest of the day with her until she passed, holding her hands and telling her that we loved her. And the last thing she said was that she loved us. Excuse me. The next few days were a blur of taxi rides to the funeral home, El Consolador, which was confused on one taxi ride with El Consulado, the U.S. consulate. So we had to redirect the taxi driver. I don't know who made those names so similar. Phone calls, texts, plans to return all three of us to the U.S. There are so many people to thank for Mom's transportation back to Madison, and many of them are not here at Temple today. So I will just say thank you all and leave it at that. We're so grateful to everyone who's played a role in supporting us during this time. And I want to thank you all for being here and encourage you to stick with us for the activities today. Thanks.
We'll invite forward Bonnie's daughter, Ellen, to offer words.
Of all the roles that my mom played in life, the role of Bubby was the most special. She was an amazing Bubby to our three children. And the last time that we all got to be together was on her 80th birthday. She came down last year in May to visit us, and we planned a couple of visits to the beach. The first visit was a little bit, I think I had to rescue her a couple of times from toppling over in the waves. And then we took her back on the beach, and she fell down a couple of times and was a little battered and bruised, but she was fine. And at the end of the day, I said, "Are you sure you want to come back to the beach another time?" And she said, "Yes, of course. I had a blast." And so I said, "Okay." And so we planned to come back for the second time on her actual birthday. And I spoke to my husband, and he suggested that we get one of those beach chairs that they had at the beach that we go to. And it has like the big, huge balloon tires, and you can go on the sand and on the rocks and in the water a little bit. And I said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And I pictured myself being the one to push her, but the kids weren't having that. They wanted to push Bubby around the beach, and they probably put a good 5 miles on that beach chair with Bubby. There were a few times that she was, white-knuckled, kind of grasping the handles for dear life. And I had to remind the kids that she's actually a grandmother and not a rag doll, and we didn't want her to topple out of the chair. But they did a great job, and they had a blast. And at the end, I asked her if she was completely horrified by the experience, and she said, no, it was the most fun I've had in years. So she was really a wonderful bubby and really on and really present when she was with our kids. Almost 12 years ago, I was in labor with my first son, Akiva, and I was about 40 hours into my illustrious 56-hour labor and feeling like I was never going to get through this, and how was I actually going to do this, and was he actually ever going to emerge? And I had my doula, Rachel, and my husband, Steve, on both sides, and it was Friday night, it was Shabbat, and we had the Shabbat candles burning, and the lights were low, and they held my hand and they helped me breathe, and they counseled me and they guided me. And I got to this place of just utter relaxation, something that I had just never really experienced before, and I think we all three of us felt it. It was this peace and this calm that came over us while I was breathing through, I think I calculated about 500 contractions. And as I was breathing through all of this, I just felt this sort of this peace and quiet come over the room that I had really never experienced before. And about 10 days ago now, as I was sitting in the room in the ICU with Mom, and I was on one side of my mom, and Jennifer was on the other side, and we were holding her hand, and they were giving her a little bit of sedation to help her calm so that the breathing wasn't so stressful for her. And I realized that I was experiencing that same level of calm and sort of just a tranquility. And, you know, as my husband said later, it was sort of two sides of the same coin. He was right. You know, almost 12 years ago, it was painful, and it was difficult, and it was beautiful. And an amazing human being came into this world. And 10 days ago, it was painful, and it was difficult, and it was beautiful. An amazing human being left this world. You know, out of all the different hats that my mom wore, you know, she started off daughter and sister and honors math student, where she met my dad. And she became, you know, girlfriend and eventually wife and college student, French teacher, English teacher, mother, medical social worker, bereaved parents counselor, president of Temple Bethel, and Bubby. And all through that time, she was also an amazing friend. And, you know, love is sometimes messy. And there, as I was sitting in the hospital with her, there were memories coming back. And some of them were so sweet. You know, riding on the back of my mom's bicycle when I was a little girl, or sitting around the dinner table and chatting and laughing about the day's events. And some of the memories were difficult, like bickering or arguing. Some of them, sometimes I felt a little bit angry that she was going, that I knew she was going to be gone, or that I didn't get as many years as I had hoped with her. And all these feelings and emotions just kind of floated in and out as I was sitting there with her. And I guess in the end, what I really felt is gratitude. Because she made me the person that I am today, for better or for worse. And if I had it all to do again, I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you.
We'll hear a reflection from one of Bonnie's friends and colleagues, Jane Bannon.
Her beloved Tamima, her beloved Asher, her beloved Akiva, her beloved Ellen, her beloved Jennifer, her beloved Steve, her beloved sisters and family. I met Bonnie in 1977. You can do that math. First of all, I'm kind of mad that I didn't get to say goodbye. But if I told her that, she would just maddeningly say, "I'm sorry, how can I help?" Am I right? Bonnie was a stitcher during part of her life, as you know. She did counted cross stitch and made beautiful, beautiful things. I have two of them. One says, "I traveled to the rainbow's end and found not gold, but you, my friend." The other one says, "The rooster may crow, but the hen delivers the eggs." And I think both of those things say a lot about Bonnie. I can't believe she's gone. She not only created art with embroidery floss, multicolored embroidery floss, she wove, but not like rugs. She wove with ropes and cables and strands that have endured for 80 years and will endure beyond, from her beautiful daughters and beloved grandchildren to this very place. She cast ropes of strength between people. Here at Temple Bethel, over decades of joyous, tenacious, extraordinary, and ordinary work. Ropes that undergird this room, this building, the people here. The spirit of this place, and not just here, but statewide and nationally. She wove cables of support for her family. All kinds of supports, from a finely tuned listening ear to practical guide wires and guardrails. She was here for you. There was no question. We knew where those guardrails were. We knew that her guide wires held firm, and we knew where her boundaries were. She threw ropes of rescue and advocacy all over the place. Too many places to count. So many ropes of hope, action, activism, and love. And then there are her filaments of color. Humor, intelligence, curiosity, art, music, books. The colors of her life, the colors she chose to wear. The ways that she was silly. She was very silly. I really love that about her. And we know instinctively the steel girders of her character: empathy, equity, equality, reverence, justice, commitment. And I can hear her say, "Oh, come on, It was just a life. I did what I could. But I see and I feel your extraordinary ropes, Bonnie, cables, and embroidery floss. You are here with us. We'd not wish for you to suffer, just so she could stay. I just wish we could hug her one more time. And so we say to ourselves, as we take one sad step after another, holding on to the ropes you cast, how can we deliver the eggs? How can we help? Love does not die. Thank you.
Offer a couple more songs. Bonnie was such a music lover and a sweet singer herself. Joined here by a mutual friend of ours, Les Goldsmith, who's going to help me sing one of her favorite songs. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו אינם. יש אנשים שזכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המבקיעים בחשכת הליל, הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember, et remember. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We remember.
Bonnie actually requested that Les sing that song. She had written in some of her end-of-life things that this is end-of-her-life documents, that to have Les sing the words of Yesh Kochavim. She certainly impacted so many people at this temple. And Les is up here as himself, but I also think Les is up here so sort of as a representative of so many people at Bethel, be they people from sisterhood or people from choir or people from board or new members that she would just pick up in the foyer when they walked in, and she would greet them. How nice that. Thank you, Les, for being able to be part of that. We'll sing one more song and then have an opportunity for reading before we turn to words of El Maleh Rachamim.
The rabbi mentioned sowing of seeds before. This is a song written by a friend of mine that maybe makes me think of Bonnie. In doing, sorry, right here, better. In doing and in dreaming, you've been dropping seeds behind you that will flower in due time. And you may never know all the change that you helped sow, but just know that it's happening all the time. You will never know all the beauty you helped grow, but just know that it's happening all the time. 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 In doing and in dreaming, you've been dropping seeds behind you that will flower in due time. And you may never know all the change that you helped grow, but just know that it's happening all the time. And you may never know all the beauty you helped grow, but just know that it's happening all the time.
A few logistical announcements before we conclude our service. One, tonight there'll be a Shiva minyan and a Shiva gathering at Bonnie's house beginning at 6 o'clock with the minyan starting soon after. That's at 1708 1708 Dewberry Drive here in Madison. Right after the service, we'll invite Bonnie's sisters and brothers-in-law and nephew and Bonnie's grandkids and son-in-law and daughters to walk out following the casket. If you can give them some space, we'll bring the pallbearers, and they'll head right to the cars for the processional to the Beit Olamim Cemetery at Sunset Gardens, right off Mineral Point Road. If you'd like to join, you can head towards your cars to the processional to Mineral Point Road to Sunset Memorial Gardens. The burial will start around 1 o'clock. If you'd like to meet us there and not follow in the processional. Tonight at Shiva, we'll also have the opportunity to share some memories and some stories about Bonnie. It will be a little bit more informal, but a nice opportunity to gather. We'll say Kaddish again together there at the Shiva after the service, and then have opportunities also to offer words of reflection and words of care. Sorry, thank you. After the burial, come back here. We encourage you to come back here for a meal of consolation here in the back of the social hall. So that will probably happen right around 1:45 or 2 o'clock. So please join us here, whether you attend the burial or not. Turn to the back of the program, or to the inside back of the program, a time for remembrance. Join with me. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we will remember her. When we have achievements that are based on hers, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. I invite you to rise. We'll take a moment of pause before the cantor chants the words of El Maleh Rachamim, the prayer that asks that God's angels accompany Bonnie.
El Maleh, Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bameromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona תחת כנפי השכינה. עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמת בסיה לאה בת רבקה, שהלכה לעולמה, בעל הרחמים יסיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן.
May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May Bonnie's memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds, that her memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Bonnie's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. That concludes our service. If you'd like to head to the processional, I invite you to go to your cars at this time.
Thank you again, my friend.